Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 10 of the SkyTemple Podcast, an exercise in enthusiastic rambling about Explorers of Sky ROM hacks. My name's MaxSchersey, coming to you live from the US West Coast. If we're down under Australia, I'm joined by yakkomon. We are back after a 2-week absence that we didn't talk about before, but in those 2 weeks that we were gone, there's a combination of some personal stuff that I had planned, so I wouldn't be available to play/record on my end. And then also, a lot of creators were not available for interviews because everyone was working on Hack Jam 4.
Including me.
Including that. This is also a morning episode, by the way, recording in the morning for yakkomon. I know we have at least one fan of hired voice yakkomon to listen to this podcast.
Yes. Yes, you get it again.
All right. Speaking of the Hack Jam, do you want to jump into that and give your 2 seconds in the news segment?
Yes. I just wanted to wrap up of the Hack Jam. If you haven't been paying attention, we got 12 hacks submitted again. It seems to be a thing now that every Hack Jam has 12 hacks. Although really, it probably should have been 13 if I had not been leading everyone on that I was making a solo hack for the Hack Jam instead of a collab with Ask Cucumber. So unfortunately, my little ruse spoiled that. But they say number 13's unlucky anyway. But there were so many great hacks. I mean, I haven't been able to play through a lot of them for just general life reasons and working on Darkrai's Revenge, which I announced in the last episode of PMD Retold. Good plug there. But congratulations goes in order to Espic for his hack Cryptic Conundrum, who won the community vote, and Tactics for being judged the jury's favourite with their hack Rainbow Heritage. That's the short name of the hack, and we'll keep it like that. And so, if with that and Rainbow Heritage winning the jury vote, this is a great segue into will it be the one that will take out Hack of the Year?
I just read that on the document. Oh, that is a great segue. Yes, folks, it's Hack of the Year season. Just like anything else, you start getting into November or December, you get every motherfucker on the internet posting their their Game of the Year, Album of the Year lists, or at least that's what I do. I'm kind of a nerd, and I read people. I read things that people say, and those people are also nerds. Long-winded way to say that, but anyways, Hack of the Year season is officially here. It was 2 weeks ago by the time this comes out. All hack submissions for creators submitting their number one best project into the pool for Hack of the Year voting has concluded. Of these, there were... Should double check this to make sure it's right. Probably should have had that tab open already. A decent split between... I say as I'm stalling for time... 15 completed hacks and 9 hacks that were labeled by creators as a hack in progress were submitted to this. And I mean, from that's gonna be a lot of hacks to play through, folks. A lot of hacks to evaluate and really, get a pool out of pretty much the best that the community has to offer. Like, basically every single big hitter that you're probably thinking of, the creator has expressed interest, and it's like, hey, trying to win some awards, get those accolades going. building that prestige. Hack of the Year season. I'm gonna say that phrase a couple more times until it sticks. Yeah, to what you said about Rainbow Heritage, by the way, that was. See, I was confused by that too because I haven't played that one yet, so don't spoil me or whatever. But
I haven't played it either, so I can't.
Okay, perfect. Apparently that one is not complete because that was labeled as a hack in progress. So, the Tactics is only submitting that one to the best hack in progress category. But obviously it was good enough to win the judge boards this past jam. So, time to figure out what did the critics like about it. And if I disagree, I'm going to go on a passive-aggressive rant online and talk about how much smarter I am than everyone else. And how I subvert expectations by being a control. What else do we have going on here? Here's a refresher for... by the way, this is available for if folks want to go into the announcements channel on the SkyTemple Discord. There were a couple forms that I sent out that you can still view, even though the submission timeline has passed by this point. For hack submissions and judge signups, that gives a little, Cliff Notes version of the judge guidelines that are going on, and also kind of the not only the rulings for hack submissions, but also the categories, which we talked about in the first episode. Just run through all the categories again, because I'm sure everyone's forgotten that shit. Your categories are Hack of the Year, Best Gameplay Design, Best Dungeon Design, Best Single Dungeon, Best Boss Fight, Best Narrative, Best Single Cutscene, Best Cutscene Direction, Best Character. Low-key, a pretty stacked category, by the way. I think people don't realize that until they until they look at the list of everything that people submitted. That's gonna be a tough one. Best Custom Graphics, Most Unique, Creative, Most Technically Impressive. And if you submitted your hack as a hack in progress, then you are eligible for Best Hack in Progress only, and not all the other ones. A couple people have asked why this rule exists, so I guess I'll just say it here. The point of that is so ideally this becomes an annual thing that happens, right? And the short answer there is that it would kind of be lame if the same hack, let's say there's a hack that's in development for 6 years and it wins one of these awards 6 years in a row. That is on that's a similar tier of Elden Ring winning most anticipated game like 3 years in a row.
I was thinking the same thing. I was going to say the same thing. Didn't it win without so much as even a trailer, or just had they even announced it? Was it just rumors at that point? I don't keep up. I didn't keep up with Elden Ring, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know they didn't have a trailer for a while. It was just it's a Dark Souls, but George R.R. Martin is writing it, and that's all we knew for a while. I don't know if it was already winning that the Game Awards thing by then.
I'm pretty sure. It definitely won without a trailer or any footage.
Incredible! I love the games industry.
It just keeps on trucking on hype alone.
It does. It does. Never underestimate the hype cycle. AAA games every holiday season, except this one apparently. But another topic. Okay. Let's see. Oh, should also probably mention for Hack of the Year. Judges were also decided by the time that this is coming out as well. we are recording on October 29th. Signups are technically open until November 1st, but pretty unlikely that anyone's going to sign up at the last second. Maybe. But as is, we currently have 11 judges, which I think is pretty cool. I forget if in that first episode either of us brought this up, but it's been a goal to have a lot of judges, right, and have a wide array of opinions, and really make sure that everyone that is submitting feels like they have a chance, and they don't necessarily need to like pander to a certain kind of person in order to get these accolades. We have a pretty decent wide array of backgrounds, at least coming from a ROM hacking perspective. There's probably count this up correct. Yeah, only about half of the judges have made a hack. So that's obviously a big shift from what's going on with the hack jams, where it's a lot of people who have made good stuff determining what is the good stuff. And it's not that one is better or worse necessarily, but I think that it's really worth it to try something new and go for getting as much of the wide array of views as possible. Because what makes a good video game? I think that's just a great, I don't want to say philosophical question. That's probably the wrong word I'm looking for. But art is subjective, dependent on our backgrounds, blah blah blah, etc. And I think Hack of the Year should reflect that, and I think it will. Not only do we have 11 judges, there is also going to be a. This might be the first time this has been announced. There's going to be a portion of voting, so the judges are going to do their voting. There's going to be nominees that come out in January 2023, once the judging period is over. At that point, there's also going to be a separate, fully open to everyone, fan voting that is integrated along with the voting that was already done with the judges. That's also going to be factored in. So trying to get everyone involved, trying to make this a community event, not supposed to be gatekeepy or whatever, trying to go totally the other direction. Have this be a celebration of the community. That is a goal. Just talked a lot, but do you have anything you want to add to any of that, Yakko?
No, you covered pretty much all I was going to say, which was about how we have a wide variety of judges. I was going to mention that we do have a heavy hitter of streaming in one of the judges, but I won't say who it is to prevent pandering or lobbying or any sort of bribing or the this isn't the Oscars.
True, this is not the Oscars. Yeah, so TMD Retold and Explorers of the Spirit gonna sweep every award in January.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And
sorry, cut you off. What?
I was sort of I was going to say Spanking and Mutual's Day Off is also on the list too, thanks to Cucumber.
That's correct. That's another one I have not played yet. I am looking forward to that. This is also high key for the judging stuff. I think that maybe, I guess this depends on who you are, but maybe more than actually winning an award, it might feel validating to just throw your hack into this pool, and every single judge has to play through your game. You know what I mean? There's an element of knowing someone has genuinely given your work a fair shot, where sometimes it can be hard to get that type of feedback if you don't have some kind of something that helps you get the ball rolling with getting attention, getting outside perspectives on your work and all that stuff. And in my experience, I think that's what a lot of people are really looking for. So that's, I mean, it's definitely a cool element, knowing that, you know, even if judges don't explicitly say anything or give you a full review or whatever, I assure you, everyone is giving your work a fair shot and thinking very critically about the work that you put in. That's badass, in my opinion.
Yeah, and the final thing I wanted to say with that is that we do have an entry from someone who joins SkyTemple. I think it was even like a week before we sent out the jury forms. They were playing around with SkyTemple for 10 days and made their hack and everything. So you know, we've got people who are like from veterans to people just starting out. It's a really good array of a variety of hacks and play styles and everything. So I'm really looking forward to see how this turns out.
Yeah, last thing, I can't believe I forgot this the whole time. A lot of people have been asking occasionally on that server and whatever, when are the hack showcases going to come back? Are we going to do one of those again? The plan is to have trailers like there were for those hack showcase videos that the artist formerly known as Paracupa, now known as Capybara, made a couple times in 2021. Maybe there's one in 2020. I don't think so though. Yeah, those will. I shouldn't say will. Those are planned to be integrated into the Hack of the Year stream when that comes in January 2023. So just like the Game Awards, you only watch it to see the trailers. So
absolutely. All right, I reckon we should move on.
Yeah,
to
16 minutes
to a hack discussion. Now that was important though. Hack of the Year season, it's on.
Hack of the Year season approaching. Yeah, we're talking about the thumbnail here says Team Stardust. We are covering both Team Stardust hacks as well as 2 additional solo hacks from someone who was involved with Team Stardust, Argonien, who has definitely been around the block a lot at this point. Obviously, we have 4 hacks that we have to talk about, and frankly, we don't really have the time to go like super in depth on all of these. We are kind of on a time crunch, just because of time zone difference, etc. But I don't know. What do you want to start with, Yakko?
I mean, the one that I wanted to talk about the most for me was probably Operative Labors. That was a hack that I judged as part of the 3rd hack jam, which was which was one of the Team Stardust hacks. And just for a quick summary for anyone who hasn't played, it's a kid Caterpie gets kidnapped, and 2 Pokemon, 2 detectives, are Rampardos and Pikachu, are detectives on the case. And I wrote here, leading them to a web of suspicion and involving themselves in a bitter custody dispute. And that last line really sets the tone for, I reckon, all 4 of Argonien's hacks. They have a very gritty tone to them, which I know both of us have written down further down in our notes. But I really liked it. For in terms of the story, there are a wide variety of characters in it, with very defined personalities, and they're written very well, and it really does play out like a whodunit detective drama. It you know, you get sort of your clues and your webs of suspicion, your leads, and then they lead nowhere, and everything, and yeah, it's really, it is actually really, I found, really well crafted as a whodunit detective story. What else did I What else did I write here? Oh no, I said everything about Operative Labors that I wanted to say. But yeah, there's a wide variety of characters in it, and yeah, it was just a really well crafted story to play.
Yeah, I agree. I like this one as well. I wrote down here that I'm a sucker for a good whodunit. I think that for video games especially, it is something that I feel like should be done more. Maybe it's not just because it's hard to pull off without coming off as a hack. But I think inherently when you're doing a whodunit story, there is an element of involving the meta narrative, right? Like getting the audience really, I say the audience, the player, whatever, interchangeable, involved as they're actually going through, right? They are forced into that same headspace as the protagonist, and trying to figure out whatever the mystery is. I think there's a lot of ways that it can go wrong, and mostly just, if the solution is some stupid shit that makes no sense. This game doesn't fall into that trap though. And I agree. I think just past the whole mystery element, I think that you have some character dynamics that I don't want this to come off the wrong way, but I do wish that there was kind of more time to explore some of these character interactions, because from the little that we do get from everyone, because you have to have a lot of different elements in a story to have sufficient mystery and whodunit, right? There's tons of characters scattered throughout the 2-hour playtime or whatever it is for this game. But from what we see from I forget their names. They actually give names to all the Pokemon. That's a consistent thing across all the hacks.
Apologies, Argonien, if you are listening to this later. I'm probably going to be just referring to the Pokemon by their Pokemon names.
Yeah.
But that's not no disrespect.
No, same here. I forgot everyone's names, honestly. But I think the buddy cop vibes that you get between the Rampardos and the Pikachu is pretty good. I think learning about the Father Butterfree mostly through context, right? Just from everyone else, and just kind of what you more directly learn about his wife and all that stuff. I think that situation was pretty interesting. Had me wanting to learn more about that every time there's some extra little something that trickled in. Yeah, every time there's even one of these one-off characters, they have some memorable lines, like the Sneasel and the Shaman. So yeah, I don't know if you have a favorite, Yakko. Probably the Pikachu for me.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking back. I mean, I like Manaphy. Sort of, they're a bit ditzy.
That's true. That seems pretty good too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that I guess we already mentioned this, but I think we both kind of agree that this is probably our favorite out of the four. Which
yes,
it's interesting because this is not the one that was was self-chosen to be nominated for Hack of the Year, and that's where funny stuff comes in. There is a judging clause where you can vote for a hack that was not submitted, and blah 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 blah, going down that rabbit hole there. See, now we have to talk about Hack of the Year technicalities on every episode. This is gonna get dumb, but yeah, we both like this one. Let's see what else. A lot of the notes I have is stuff that is in common with all of these hacks. I think that there is a as we mentioned in a couple other episodes, there is a pretty distinct style and some characteristics that carry over to all of these hacks here. And starting with operative labors in particular, I think the custom backgrounds I think we need to talk about here, because custom backgrounds are not really a novelty in hacks anymore, right? Like our last hack jam was literally about adding a custom roamable background into the thing that every hack had. But I think there are assets from the original game that are like reused and integrated with the new stuff that is added into all these, but the new stuff that is added in uh, looks pretty good. I don't know if these are things that are ripped from other 16-bit video games and plopped in there, or if it's custom made or what. But it really doesn't. I don't think clash with the Explorers of Sky art style in a very distracting way, having those assets kind of line up against each other. That's like in Operative Labors. I'm thinking of like the main world map, inside the cafe, the restaurant. I forget what they call it. Inside the police station, all stuff like that. I just look at that and I'm thinking, you know what, that looks good. That doesn't look like that was added in.
Yeah.
Not ROM
There are
hacker.
custom backgrounds. There are custom backgrounds in all 4 of the hacks. Burn Soil also has one, and what was the? Hold on, I've lost the name. Delusion. That also has a lot of custom background and custom like dungeon tile sets as well, which was interesting too. We haven't seen a lot of hacks use custom tile sets just yet.
Yeah, because they're hard. that is a very niche skill in 2022 for Explorers of Sky ROM hack. Yeah. Speaking of that, let's move on to we're kind of going out of order, but let's talk about Delusion, which came out before Operative Labors. But that one, first of all, you wrote down the plot synopsis, so why don't you start with that, and then I'll chime in.
Yeah, so I wrote down, an Umbreon joins some old friends to try and recapture the good old days they had as an Eevee by exploring a creepy mansion. That's what I wrote.
Yep. So, yes, back on what we were saying about custom assets. The ghosts, that's really cool. And the like fading out death animation thing, really, really cool and convincing. And then in general, just like the dungeon tiles for not only the graveyard, there's that overworld section of the graveyard before they go into the dungeon as well. That looks pretty good.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. And there's also that area right before you get to Mars Shadow. I was trying so hard to like see if it like, was this pulled from another game? I started looking up things that I thought it was, but I couldn't match it to anything. So I don't know, maybe they just made that.
I mean, I think I wouldn't put it past it, because it is a Team Stardust hack, and I think there were like 4 people involved.
Yeah.
In Delusion, so I wouldn't be surprised if one of them had like tile set experience.
No, that's what it seems like for sure. The mansion, by the way, we have to talk about that, because that's a really unique concept, because like we were saying before, there are the ghosts in there. They do a thing on a bunch of floors where they use the 2-room floor. One room is empty and the other room is a monster house. I don't know, when's the last time you played through this? Do you remember that part?
I think pretty much all of the times that I got the monster houses are with the ghosts in them, or are you talking about regular Pokemon monster houses?
With the ghosts in them, yeah.
Yeah, so every time I got a monster house, I was spawned into it. So but interestingly, I think if I remember, I tried using an orb, and it didn't work because I know I tried using a one room orb or something, and it didn't work because it couldn't do it or something. I don't know. I think it might be a fixed room with a stair. I could be completely wrong, but I actually no, but that would make sense because there'd be procedurally generated dungeon. Forgive me. It's.
I mean, I guess it could be. We're both talking out of our ass because we don't really, and not to speak for you, don't delve that much into fixed rooms. I guess that's not past the realm of possibility. Maybe that spawns too many enemies for the fixed room gen to handle. Maybe not.
I mean, because I know you can do a fixed, like I know, Explorers of the Unknown, which we talked about a few episodes ago, had that labyrinth level.
Yeah, like a fixed room with steps in it.
Yeah, but yeah. I mean, thinking about it more, I think they are procedurally generated, but yeah, for me, all of the monster houses I got spawned into, so and they were usually stair rooms as well, so I didn't take much notice of the layout, to be honest.
There you go.
Sorry to kill that.
Speaking of mysteries, it's it's an interesting thing. I'm gonna be totally blunt, always positive podcast. I do think they maybe did this too many times, but the idea of, because all the ghosts pretty much die in one hit. So just having everyone all line up, they're coming out of the hallway into the room or whatever. Just being able to have everyone line up. I think someone has a ranged move as well. Someone has Shadow Ball. I believe the Umbreon does.
Yeah, I think those floors, your movement speed is slower. Because I know when I spent a ridiculously long amount of time in one of the monster houses, suddenly I got like this message saying, like, all 4 Pokemon are like in the space of 4 terms saying, this Pokemon is now moving at normal speed. This Pokemon is now I think an item effect might be coded into that floor as well. Because did you find the ghosts moved faster than you?
I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember. I know that's terrible to say. We need to look more into this. We're finding all kinds of conspiracy theories. Oh my god!
I can just imagine some of you listening and just banging your head against the wall, thinking, "Do your research."
Yeah, please correct this fake news. Look, we played all this shit yesterday, okay, and we're recording today, so this is the sacrifice you gotta make to get the app out on time. Yeah.
I will say something though that I definitely know is true, which if we're talking about dungeons, is there is one concept I like, and I know I don't talk much about dungeons and gameplay design, but with this really stuck out for me, is the dungeons that are designed not to be cleared, which occur both in operative labors and in now I'm going to mispronounce this, but in Phantasime. And operative labors one is done really well because it is firstly the dungeon's called Turnback Cave, right? But essentially,
cheeky.
The whole dungeon occurs in a flashback, and so pretty much the dungeon is designed that you will run out of PP, you will run out of belly, you will die at some point before you reach the end of the dungeon. That's completely fine. Although I did read I remember when this came out, somebody used cheats to get to the final floor, and apparently all of it is actually like accounted for in that. So there's a Giratina final boss if you do make it to the final floor. And then if you somehow defeat Giratina, you just get greeted with a no message and then get chucked out of the dungeon.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. I wouldn't do that. I would just, if someone did that, I would, have some passive-aggressive message about kids using your Game Shark nowadays trying to break my game. But, that's actually pretty clever, yeah.
Yeah, so that's good. And then the second one, which it fits the whole theme of Phantasime. But I know that's not. I've just said an extra N, but that the whole point.
Do you want to do the plot synopsis first, or is that what you're doing?
All I wrote down was a Delphox slowly loses her grip on reality, which is conveyed through a number of custom assets, custom glitch effects within the game. And part of that is a dungeon where they use the dungeon interruptions patch to essentially make. I mean, they even say this beforehand. It's a 99 floor dungeon, but each of the floors are treated as one dungeon. And pretty much when you transition from one dungeon to another, so, text boxes, glitch and appear and everything, and before you get to the final floor, which ends in an intentional soft lock. Which again, the dungeon is not meant to be cleared, and there are flags that are set that mean that once you restart the game, the story progresses, which is you can do with the dungeon interruption. Yeah, because it'll load a script and everything. So, I thought that was pretty cool too.
No, that dungeon was definitely really clever. First of all, when I was playing through it. This kind of off topic. I don't know if you were thinking too. As soon as the text box came up, I thought of our good pal Decimeter PMD Bridge. Immediately. Shoutouts to the text box glitch. The text box incident of 2021 or whatever it calls it. Yeah, this hack does it on purpose. This dungeon's insane. It's obviously, I have no idea what the hell is going on. We're at the point now where what people are doing in these hacks, it's I literally don't understand any of this shit anymore. So whatever. I've kind of given up on the technical aspect, trying to know how that happens. But just playing through it as a consumer. I think it's absolutely hilarious that you can have the whole screen blocked and you can still proceed through the dungeon. Just because, it's something that forced me to realize, I think it's a concept that we've talked about on this podcast before, but there's a lot of autopilot and a lot of repetition built into PMD. And it is none more obvious than this dungeon where you literally the entire bottom screen is blocked out. You have, no information. You can't read any of the menus. You can't read any of the battle log. Just move around, open your move shortcuts menu and do your move on the red dot on your minimap and kill them and move through the hallway to get to the next room. Look for the stair icon. And that's it. It's did you have this experience too? It was just so
of course.
Yeah.
I thought, you know what, I'm going to play this until I can't play it no more, and so I'm going to be using every trick in the book.
Yeah. Man. It's crazy. It escalates too. It doesn't just start off like as you keep going up until just the black screen, the game says, no, you're crashing. There's just more and more and more corruption that keeps adding. It gets to a point where at the start, you're able to look through the half transparency on the text box to be able to see the bottom screen. At some point, the textures of the dungeon just completely cease existing. It turns into Gmod before you install Counter-Strike Source. Not literally, but same idea. It's really cool. It's really cool. And what got me is that I knew that it was on purpose, right? Because everything was leading towards okay, this is an intentional thing that's being done in the game. But what fucked me up is that just restarting the game, hitting continue, just immediately hard cuts to waking up in the start of the next scene. That was cool. That's how you do that. You know what I mean?
Mm.
You don't have to do like a nudge, wink, wink. Whoa, that was really weird. Something wacky just happened. Just immediately like acting like it didn't happen at all, and continuing the story from there. That was cool. That was a cool moment. Yeah, you have any more thoughts on this one?
No, I'm all good. Yeah, and I think I pretty much covered all of my points anyway, except for burned soil. Do we want to quickly talk about that
Yeah,
so
go
that we
ahead.
at least cover all four of them? Yeah. So I mean, I wrote down a synopsis of burned soil, but I mean, you'll probably say that there's a whole lot more to this than just what I've written. But I put down hostile Pokemon from the Sand Continent invade the Grass Continent. 2 Pokemon head to the guild to investigate. That is very simplistic.
Yeah, so a little bit of lore on this one. I should probably double check my dates if possible on. Yeah, so this game, the first demo of it originally released October 2021, so about a year ago. A couple months ago, the version that we both played radically overhauled like the entire beginning of the game. And what I wrote down was, I'm pretty sure he literally started from scratch on a new ROM. That first demo, there's already there's a decent bit of work done. But this is that's almost like that's your pre-testing, pre-planning prototype, and then he started making the actual game. Is what it feels like. There's some things that carry over, but like every single scene that was in that original version has been changed, at least in some way. And every dungeon, etc. So first of all, I don't think a lot of people would do that. They would just cancel the project. So that's pretty interesting. But there's so much going on in this game. Like there's that whole the demo is probably like what, 2 hours, like an hour,
Yeah.
hour and a half, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff being dropped. This kind of applies to all 4 hacks, I think. There's a lot of just like stuff going on in the background, a lot of background lore, a lot of just kind of like backstory that the player isn't necessarily privy to yet. Sometimes you get details on that stuff, sometimes not. Always just thrown in the middle of everything, like you're a guest to the world that they have created. Yeah, this one's supposed to be some grand catastrophic event, world war, just fucking fuck it, just up the ante, throw in every single fanfic trope. Not a negative, by the way. This is, motherfuckers need to understand that ROM hacking and making fanfics, basically the same thing. So you might as well have some fun with it, right?
Absolutely. I completely 100 as look, PMD Retold is a fan fiction in interactive form.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. This is this hack knows what it is. It is over the top. It is ridiculous. It is really like there's so much that is introduced to the point where you get the impression that things are well thought out. There is going to be like a resolution for all this stuff. All this stuff has a reason to be there, and by extent, there's reason to get invested in the world that is being created, and get invested in all the random little lore bits that get dropped early on and whatever. It all feels like it matters and not like it's formulaic because I'm making a story, so I have to add my government mandated character arc. The
3-act plague.
The 3-act plague. yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say, because a lot of these hacks are short, so it's hard to go super duper in detail on the story like we usually do on this. And all the I won't say all the dungeons. Most of the dungeons, aside from the ones that we talked about, are pretty, generally they're kind of err on
They're
the
on the
side of
easier
caution.
side.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
on the easier side, and let you autopilot. That's fine. Kind of similar to the base game, so there's not really much to talk about there, in my opinion. I will say, yeah, I'm looking at things that I forgot to say already. In all four of these hacks, I think the presentation is, there is a feeling in the direction. There's a feeling of gravitas, right? I don't know if you felt this too, but it's to the point where, like, yeah, these stories do take themselves seriously to the extent that they are seriously trying to keep you engaged, right? I think that it can be very easy for people to fall into the trap of adding, a couple too many ironic quips, and then you lose all attention in your story because you're kind of conditioning your audience to not really care about anything you say because everything's just haha funny jokes. But I don't think any of the four hacks we discussed fall into that at all. I think that they make it very clear that from the start, like, something's gonna happen and you should pay attention to it. Whether you do or not is up to you. But it's if you buy in that there is a story to be had. Let's see. Going for a while. So just one last question I had for you, Yakko, before we get to asking more questions in the interview. What do you think about the swearing in the dialogue? Because we have to talk about that. It happens in all four hacks. Not like doesn't happen everywhere, but it does happen sometimes.
Yeah, it certainly catches me a little off guard in the sense that I think swearing is something that if you're going to commit to, you need to commit to it early on. I think you almost need to have a scene with it early on so that it doesn't catch you by surprise. Now, I can't remember exactly where the parts of swearing are in all four of the hacks. But yeah, I'm okay with the concept of it, but I think it needs to be contextual, and it also needs to be, I think that expectation needs to be set early on. And if not in the story, then perhaps a disclaimer or something at the start of the game. I don't mind it. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of it, but I'm okay with it where it's contextually relevant. Probably more so in a comedy shitpost kind of hack, like a PMD abridged or Pikachu's Great Adventure, rather than like, if I suddenly threw swear words in Retold, then that won't work. Or if Explorers of the Spirit suddenly had like a random swearing in it, like in the last third of the game,
Right.
I'm not sure it would really work. So I think I'm personally fine with it, but yeah, it does. It's not. I guess it's not frequent enough that it sort of didn't catch me off when it did happen. Like despite the more sort of darker or more adult storylines.
Yeah, that's pretty much my thought too. And like the first thing you said there pretty much sums it up. Just does it fit the tone? I think it's like anything else where if you establish your tone in a certain way and you start formatting either your dialogue or your cutscene direction or whatever in a way that kind of betrays the tone that you've already set. Betrays kind of a dramatic word. The tone that you have already set, then that's gonna feel weird, because that's just how it works when people engage with art in a genuine way, right? They try and get engrossed in what is being depicted, and the tone is part of that. So yeah, to your point, I think I agree. As long as it's established early, like this is what the tone is, then okay. Like we talk fairly often about how, PMD has. I actually don't know if we said this on the podcast before, but PMD is a weird community in that fanfics and fan comics are so freaking huge. Like, considering that these games are pretty niche and like haven't sold super well, but the fan community has always been super active for like 15 years. And in the fan comic world, you do find a couple of those where there's gore and swearing and all that stuff. So obviously people like it. But I think why it may... You go ahead. You go first.
I was just going to say, you need to set the tone early on.
Right. I think for this in particular, like, maybe earlier than you think, just because... maybe this is just my background, but going in, I think a lot of the times what you expect is that not to happen, because the source material of Explorers of Sky doesn't do that. Right, so that's kind of our baseline that we look at whenever we go into a hack that we know nothing about. That's just my take, though. Does that change for you? Do you approach a hack differently in that respect, where like you don't think that's the default, or how do you treat that?
I think for me, it's just more about setting the expectations early on. I think, yeah. I mean, if I prefer to sort of know what I'm getting myself into before playing it, especially since I'm playing some of these hacks specifically so that we can discuss them for the podcast, for Hack Jam jury, for Hack of the Year jury. So I'm playing a number of hacks that I would normally play, that tonally I might not really, I guess, navigate towards, and so sort of knowing what I'm getting myself into, so I can prepare for those moments mentally. That's sort of for me how I approach sort of tone and hacks. Like, if I know something's going to be a comedy haha shitpost hack, then I'll know to sort of expect that. If it's more of a horror dark hack, well, I'll know to expect that. Sort of, yeah. For me, it's more about, which I guess can be hard, because obviously some hacks try to subvert. It starts off one way and then goes another, but that's a whole different kettle of fish that I won't be going into.
Right. I think your point is, not to cut you off, that when you're doing that, though, when you're trying to subvert, when you do that, that does create an unsettling dissonance in people either way. Like, it's the same effect. It's just that if you're doing it on purpose, and you're doing it because you think you're gonna, I'm going to elicit this reaction, and this is going to have this artistic impact on what I'm making.
Yeah. That's all I was going to say. Anyway, you summarized it better than I could.
All right. My bad. I didn't want to cut you off there. I wanted to interject that point.
Cut me off at any point. I am not good at short summaries or explaining my own thoughts. Sometimes.
That makes two of us. Okay, we're cutting everyone off. Interview coming up, second half. Going to commercial break. Great Shot Legends. Okay, we're back for the interview portion. Podcast joined by Argonien, thank you for joining us.
Good morning, evening, whatever.
Yep.
It's an international call today. It's morning in Australia. It's morning in Australia, afternoon on the West Coast, and you are in Europe.
Yeah, it's like 11 p.m. at night.
Truly
How do we
international episode today?
Yeah, how do we make this podcast work with all the different time zones? We make sacrifice and all that stuff. So let's see. What should we start with, Yakko? You ask one of your questions.
Yeah, so I think I'll start off. Oh, what do I start off with? Because I got a couple of questions here. Well, some people may know you more as which we didn't actually discuss this in the first half, but some people may know you more as a streamer. You stream a lot of hacks that have been made using SkyTemple ever since the early days. There have been like a lot of hacks you play. You've probably played almost every one that has been released. So I guess I just wanted to hear your thoughts about sort of how the community has evolved, both as a community and in the level of hacks, like the quality of the hacks that have been released over these last 2 years. Because I think, I would really like to hear what you think about that. Just to start off with, before we start talking about your hacks in general.
All right, so as you said, I've started recording and uploading videos about hacks, I think in early 2021. And since then, the hacks did, of course, improve, especially because we made advances on the ASM field. Speaking of things like Rainbow Heritage, for example, which I think is written in Sea of Time. So there was a big move away from the original gameplay of Explorers to things that are actually resembling more other games, like these auto chess we had, like this last gem. I mean, it's an example that's pretty clear in mind right now because I played it just a week ago, I think. How the community evolved in general. I mean, it's hard to say for me because I don't spend that much time actively in Discord. But
I mean, I guess what have you been like? I guess in terms of like just the hacks, then like just what there's been so many hacks now with like in jokes and references and all that. Like and I know even yourself, like there's that kind of thing in your hack jam submissions. I think the community as a whole is a really a really tight knit one, and but also really accepting too. But it's don't go on too much more about Rainbow Heritage because both Max and I have yet to play it. So
right, I see. Yeah, I mean, you can definitely say the community stands fairly close, I think, especially with referencing each other's works in respectively in their hacks.
Yeah, all the time. I think something too. I wonder if and Yakko, I don't know if this is what you're trying to get to with that question. Is it different from your perspective, being someone that uploads videos on YouTube, right? Because the impression that I get is that that's kind of like a whole different world than the people that like the hackers who talk in some of those Discord channels and whatever, collaborate, share ideas. That's a whole different world, right? It's just people that are just commenting on the hacks that exist. I don't know how much do you ever look at that stuff? I mean, do you look at your own comments, or what? How much do you engage with those people?
I spend the thing is, I read, as far as I'm concerned, every comment I do get on my videos. And I'm usually happy to read those comments because it's feedback for either the hack creators, which may or may not end up also looking at the videos, and it's well, of course, feedback from me. And I've also looked at a lot of comments of different YouTubers, like P&D Gang, regarding games that I'm interested in to see what people think about them. And it's definitely different from the feedback, I should say, that you get in the SkyTemple Discord, for example. Because on YouTube, people tend to be a lot more realistic in their answers. A lot more. They do criticize a lot more, as I found out.
Yeah, I think most of us have had that experience. It's I think what's interesting about this is not to segue off too hard, but for Hack of the Year, by the way, I forget if we mentioned this, but all 3 people currently in the call are going to be judges. I think that part of what is interesting about judging in general, and Argonien, I'm not sure if you've already judged Hack Jam before. I know Yakko has.
I didn't.
Okay. There's an element of I think most of us in this community are kind of like people pleasers in a way, right? Because like you mentioned, a lot of times if you ask for feedback, people generally don't want to roast you too bad. Sometimes that's what you're looking for. Sometimes it's not. I could say on a personal level, I've definitely kind of experienced both ends of the spectrum because, to your point, my hack kind of escaped the SkyTemple bubble pretty early, and just people with no context coming across it happened. So, got a lot, like you're saying, a lot more people that are being honest on both ends of the spectrum, especially early on in production of that hack. But I think how this relates to judging is this is something that we're like, there's going to be some hurt egos at some point during this, right? That's just a truth that we've all had to acknowledge ever since the idea of this event came around. Is that not everyone's going to be a winner, and we're don't want to put you guys on the spot. This just now came to my head right now. I don't know if either of you have any plans to for every hack give your thoughts. I know there's so many fucking hacks that got submitted for this stuff, but I don't know. That could be a fresh perspective. I think that's something adding to maybe what we need. What kind of characteristics are the things that are being more validated in this community? I don't know. It's an interesting question that we are going to solve when Hack of the Year comes around. I don't know if either of you guys have any thoughts on that, but yeah.
I mean, I'm not. I mean, I'd like to do that. I think it's more I'm not the best at articulating my thoughts very well, in a way that isn't too blunt or can come off the wrong way. I mean, I wasn't really thinking too much about that when I did it. Yeah, I mean, it's not something I considered myself.
I mean, I in general do not have much experience in judging. I think it would be nice for the creators to have a specific feedback in the case of what was the reason why it got why it didn't get one category, or why it did get points in another category English. But I think I personally wouldn't be able to write something that would, of course, first make sense to other people, because how I usually do this is I write a TXT file with some words that make sense for me, but probably not for anyone else who's reading it. And of course, it would be in German, so yeah.
Right, makes sense. Might be like a judge by judge basis, but just a little stream of consciousness for listeners there as we start going off topic very early. Here's another question going back on topic about your hacks. We talked about all 4 hacks that you have credits for currently on the SkyTemple hack listing. And that's a lot. Not a lot of people have 4 hacks out right now. Not only have you worked on a lot of projects, you've done a lot of different types of things. You have Burn Soil, which is I'm guessing that's supposed to end up being a full-length thing eventually. You have 2 of your Hack Jam projects that you worked on with Team Stardust, and then one that you did on your own. So what's the difference for you, like jumping between all those different types of projects? Do you approach it mostly the same way? Are there some differences in your workflow? Do you think that one plays to your strengths better than the others? Just general thoughts on that.
Yeah. The thing is, you of course said I have a lot of hacks on my credit list, and I think the benefit I have from this is that I learn a lot of new things, especially during hack jams, because I'm forced to use things I haven't used before in most of the cases. Man, I'm sorry, my English is not good today. So yeah, then I learn, for example, in the operative labors was the first hack I learned how to actually use in an overworld and how to implement it correctly. And I used then this knowledge I got from there to approve the other projects I've currently running at that time, which ended up being the next update for Delusion and the rework for Burnt Soil. So it's just like starting with a new project that has a very focused point that I want to learn or I need to learn, and then use the knowledge I get from that in the other hacks that I'm working on.
What was the reason for that, by the way? I thought it was pretty interesting that it seemed like you basically started completely over on Burn Soil from that original version. I said in the first half, like, I think most people would have either just abandoned the project or not done that and just continued on. So what made you want to totally start over on that?
To be honest, I thought about abandoning it, actually. But then I thought, so when I started it, I made a Discord server, a small thing for that. And by now I've actually over 100 people on the Discord server. So there are like 100 people that watched this and thought, well, that's something I want to keep track of, and I decided to join the server. So then I decided, okay, I can't just let all those 100 people or whatever down, but I'm also not happy with the state the hack is currently in like a whole thing. So I decided to just, start over with more knowledge and with improvements in general. And it actually is made on a new ROM, so it is made from scratch, basically, once again.
Got it. Well, pretty impressive. Personally, I'm looking forward to the next version. Seems like you have something cool going on there. You have another question, Yakko?
I do. So I want to know how you got those custom glitch effects to work in Phantasm. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce.
I don't know how to say it either. I'm glad I'm not asking this question.
But that must have taken a while to get working, and everything. Because I thought that was really well done. How did you get that to work?
So first off, the way I at least pronounce it is Phantasime, which is a very German pronunciation. But so what exact glitch things do you mean? Do you mean the ones in cutscenes or the dungeon thing?
Both, I would say. I think all both of them. I mean, I think probably the one that got me the most was sort of the one before the dungeon, where you have like the just all of it, really.
All right. So the cutscene things are mostly like for once edited portraits, and there's a command to set the offset of a portrait. But if you set the offset far enough to left or right that it basically wraps around the screen, it loses its text box. So that is one thing. Then the white boxes in the text lines are the only Unicode letter that this game has, which is corresponding to a missing letter.
Huh.
I wanted to use also the question mark thingy, but that just wasn't in the Unicode. The shifting text, partially over names and such, was just done with clumset, with the clumset command, which sets a portion of text to a desired pixel length, I think, inside the text box. Then, of course, S&D stream for the music, which is actually music that is corrupt from a broken EOS ROM, which I just recorded and then cut down to fit in the game and all that. The Zalazel thing is just the weather effects being, well, overloading the game's RAM, I think. At least this is what it looks like. If you set too many weather effects at once, the game just gets very confused with that and proceeds to put some random effects on the screen. And the text box with Zalazel and all these moving parts are just objects. All right, and the dungeon. The dungeon thing is, I knew how to get the glitches to work from the start, basically, because I think a few months ago, SBIG made a report on that this is happening, and if someone knows a fix for it, and there we found out why this happens. But overall, it turned out to be much more of an edge case than I expected. Because when I made this dungeon, I also had, of course, to account for what happens when you lose inside the dungeon.
Right.
And if you've worked with the lost cases before, you know that they're mostly just a bunch of empty cases. And the thing is, these dungeons do not have cases that are present there, so I would usually have to add them. But once I just added an empty case there, so it just basically ran the same code, but with this empty case there as well, the whole thing just didn't end up glitching at all. So I had to figure out how to actually crash the game once the player loses. So I had to look, of course, where does the game jump once it continues after its default cycle. And that turned out to be, it jumps to the save states for whatever reason. So the save states have an if function that, if the wrong number is set, actually just crashes the game. So yeah. And
that's
the crash, of course, is actually not a real crash. I have a patch that would crash the game for real, but I was too scared that it actually would break something, so I just ended up soft-locking the game and just playing a crash sound I also pre-recorded using S&D stream.
Well, I'm guessing you're stealth saving the background in one of those dungeon interruptions then?
Not quite, actually. I completely forgot about that. All these silent saves are done using an ASM patch I got from ADEX like 2 months ago.
Okay.
Which, I mean, it just removes the text prompt that comes up mostly during cutscenes, where it just asks you, do you want to save, yes or no? Yeah. And ADEX removed this whole yes and no thing, so it just automatically saves no matter what. And I just used a fade out all, so everything, text boxes and all, I just faded out, and during these black scenes, the game actually saves. So like once you leave the town and the black scene to usually start the dungeon happens, during this black screen, it's saved.
Very interesting. Yeah, we talked earlier about that, and I said I gave up on trying to figure out what was happening. That's pretty crazy. What was the inspiration for that? Were you just like messing around, in the debugger and loading save states, and like, wouldn't it be cool if I put that in the game? Was it something like that?
I mean, it was more or less a that could work type of thought. When just laying in bed. That's also the same time I found the name was just laying in bed and thinking about what could work in this game and what would, well, be a hack that hasn't been done in this way before. I mean, of course, there's Fragments, which does it a lot better, but I don't know, ASM.
Comparison is the thief of joy. I thought that shit was cool, to be honest.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it too, and I was just really keen to get your insight as to how that happened, because I haven't played Fragments yet. So at the moment, yours is the that's I haven't seen anything like that before, so that was really cool.
Yeah, Fragments does a lot more cool things.
Well, Fragments Chapter 2 has been submitted for Hack of the Year, so I will be experiencing that in the next couple of months.
It's true. We will get around playing it. All right, Argonien. Next question. We talked in the first half about how there's like a gritty feel to all four of the hacks that you worked on. I'm wondering if there's like any particular inspirations you have in mind for that, because that's not necessarily like, it's not the source material, right? Like you're talking about a lot more adult themes and stuff like that. So I'm wondering what was the inspiration there for you to want to put that spin on the game when making your hacks?
So Delusion and Operative Labors are not written by me. Those are written by Gothic Starfire. So these are not my stories in that sense. But with Burnt Soil is, I mean, it was 2020, and I was 16 at the time, so a lot of things going on inside in the head, and news are always present, at least here where I live. So I probably got the inspiration unintentionally from that. I mean, it's not like I thought about, what's happening in the East, I could make that in a game. No, absolutely not. I think it's like some, I don't even know how to say that in English, actually. That's unfortunate. So, when you have something and then you experience it daily and just slips into your thoughts all the time.
Lived experience, I think that's what that's how I would describe it.
Could be, yeah.
Lived experience. It's it's sort of you're kind of writing what you know, because it's your life. You live it yourself. But I do find it quite funny, just going back, how like as soon as you said it was 2020, it's like I feel like that is the inspiration for quite a few hackers out there, in terms of how they either got started in hacking, or how they like I know, Max, your Explorers of the Spirit was a hack that was born
that's a 2020
out of
hack for sure.
That was definitely a 2020 inspired hack. So yeah, I mean, it's just funny how, well, not funny, just how our globally shared experience of just what was going on at that time has contributed in one way or another to either people getting into hacking, or stories that hackers have made themselves. Sorry, that was a comment. I don't think that was any. There was no real lead into any question. Or that.
That's fine.
Just a statement.
Good insight. That's great to hear though, Argonien. That it's. I don't know if you ever feel this way, but to get to Yakko's point, I kind of had a similar experience where just the way I was kind of feeling about life during 2020 kind of led me to not only make a hack but like make a hack in the way that I did. So I thought that that message needed to get out there into the for lack of a better term. So I don't know if you get this feeling, but just the fact that it's like whatever you want to get out into the world is something that it's like it feels validated once you get it onto art, because art lasts forever. I don't know if you follow what I'm saying there exactly, but
kind of, yeah. I do get it though. Yeah, but I think it's my inspiration was actually less deep for it to make this. I mean, I had just basically a lot of time, a lot of free time.
Mm-hmm.
And because I mean, I did had to graduate or like work for my graduation back then, but I didn't. So I just sat around, and when I found SkyTemple, of course, I joined the Discord, looked at all this, looked at your tutorial. I still remember how I sat at home, tutorial up on one monitor and SkyTemple up on another monitor, and how happy I was when the first characters actually started moving how I wanted them to move.
Yep.
That was great.
Yeah, I think all of us can relate to that as well. The first time the characters actually start moving, you just like, holy shit,
yeah.
I can make a hack.
I am God.
Yeah, right. Oh. All right, Argonien. We are at that classic point in the podcast. In 30 seconds or less, why is Phantasime hack of the year? I hope I remember that pronunciation correctly. In 30 seconds or less, why is it hack of the year?
I would say mostly because it actually uses actual glitches in the game, which being the dungeon thing, which I think hasn't been done by anyone before. But yeah, that's about it probably.
Perfect. Short and sweet, to the point. We love it. And any last words that you want to add for whoever's listening to this podcast?
I don't know, have a good night's sleep, I guess.
Excellent. All right, thanks for coming on. Thanks everyone for listening. Episode 10, SkyTemple Podcast. We're going to be back to doing this every 2 weeks unless otherwise stated. Thanks for joining. Bye.